AI is transforming how we connect with our customers and partners, from hyper-personalized emails to dynamic product recommendations. We're now able to meet customers where they are in real time. And by analyzing behavior patterns, AI really helps predict intent, allowing us as marketers to deliver the right message at the right moment.
Welcome to CMOs Unscripted. This is real talk with today's top marketing leaders. No filters, no fluff, just bold insights and honest conversations that cut through the noise. I'm Lisa Martin. Today we're exploring the fascinating intersection of language, marketing, and AI. How do the words that we use in marketing influence the development and outcomes of AI systems? Such a great topic. Joining me on the show today is the CMO of Cisco Capital, Emily Foley. Emily is responsible for driving awareness of financial models, sustainable solutions for Cisco technology. She also creates value and opportunity to enable digital transformation, to enable profitability, and she leads an incredible team of global field marketing, customer, partner marketing folks, digital marketing, brand, PR, analyst relations, and so on. Emily, it's so great to have you and your perspectives on the show. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm honored to be here.
You're known, Emily, for your expertise in storytelling, in reinvigorating brands, building value, and fueling the sales pipeline. And today, in 2025, it's all about AI and marketing, but it's also, as you know, and I completely agree with you, it's all about the customer. But every company these days has to have an AI story, but they also have to navigate the challenges of AI bias. So they have to balance the rationale and the emotional customer engagement. Emily, share some of the common AI use cases that you're seeing employed in marketing today.
I would love to. Lisa, you nailed it. It's all about the customer. AI is transforming how we connect with our customers and partners, from hyper-personalized emails to dynamic product recommendations. We're now able to meet customers where they are in real time. And by analyzing behavior patterns, AI really helps predict intent, allowing us as marketers to deliver the right message at the right moment. And AI is opening up incredible use cases across the customer journey. But the key is to use it responsibly. From smarter segmentation to personalized experiences, we have to make sure we're not just efficient, but we're also empathetic.
Definitely. That's not a nice to have anymore. That's table stakes. But you nailed it. I mean, we as consumers, I blame it on Amazon and all the e-commerce companies, because we have this expectation that we're going to get this really hyper-personalized content, campaigns, emails, texts. The data that they have on us is going to be relevant, contextually relevant and timely in a non-creepy way. And they're going to be able to serve us up these dynamic product recommendations based on our history so they can get that intent. But how are you using AI, Emily, at Cisco Capital for personalization and to ultimately improve that customer experience, which is what all customers want?
Absolutely. And thank you for the question. So first, I will say customers are humans, much like us. They are not data points. And so to avoid bias, we have to blend the logic with empathy and understanding not just what customers are doing, but why. It's the why behind everything. And that balance will help us design experiences that feel both intelligent and genuinely human. And so, from hyper-personalization, it goes beyond using a first name. It's about understanding context, where the customer is in their journey, what they care about, and how to connect in a way that feels human and not robotic, kind of like what you just said.
has to feel human, has to feel empathetic, can't feel robotic, or people just churn. So there's so many great use cases for AI in marketing. You talked about a number of those. And I talk with B2B marketers all the time. Everyone is really heavily leaning into Gen AI, agentic AI now. But something I learned from you, Emily, is that marketing language and tone affect model training. Talk about that and why it's so important to nail the tone, the empathy, and the language.
I would love to. I have three key points, though, before I jump into that I'd love to share.
Please
So,
do.
for the real time data, that gives us a live pulse on customer behavior. But we have to interpret that data with care and pairing that with emotional intelligence so we respond with relevance and not just speed. It's not always about speed, it's about
Yes.
relevance.
Yes.
And so also predictive AI helps us anticipate what customers might need. You know, when you go to Amazon and they start feeding you things of, whatever you've searched for that might be relevant to something you had searched for before. But we can't forget the human behind the data. And so it's about combining those predictive insights with thoughtful engagement that builds trust with our customers. Because as soon as someone doesn't trust you, they're going to go to the next person or
Absolutely.
company.
Yes.
And then,
Tr-
so, oh, sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was going to say trust is currency, but continue on.
Absolutely. And that, again, is table stakes. I mean, and in this dynamic economy, trust is absolutely the most critical thing. And so I think also dynamic recommendations are powerful, but they need to feel intuitive and helpful and not invasive. And to your term, not creepy. And
Yes.
so when done right, they make the customer feel seen, understood, and that's the heart of great engagement.
And that heart is so important and so differentiating for organizations that get it right. You talked about it's not about the speed, it's about the contextual relevance, it's about the emotional element to that. And I know that you're
It
a
is.
really huge vocal advocate for how language shapes AI. And you would advise marketers, hey, choose your words wisely. Talk about and reinforce why that is so important and how it can impact the customer experience, like churn, for example.
Oh gosh, yes. So marketing language shapes AI more than we realize. And every word we use in training data, it influences how AI interprets and interacts with our customers. So that's tone, inclusivity, and choice of words that all guides the model's understanding and responses. So basically, that can reinforce or reduce bias in AI systems because it's real time training. And so if we train those models on inclusive, clear, and very human centered language, the outputs will reflect that. And so it's not about what we say, it's how we say it, to your point. And if we aren't careful, we really risk building systems that reinforce biases rather than challenge them.
Which is what we want to avoid because we know there's inherent bias. But as you're saying, AI, it's
Mhm.
learning from the words that we use, from our tonality. So if we're inputting biases
Mhm.
in language, that behavior just gets reinforced. And that can deliver, harmful stereotypes. It can also exclude voices that matter. So it makes perfect sense what you're saying that the words, the tone absolutely matter. Do you think enough CMOs are tuned into that in terms of the language, the tone, instead of just being able to meet the customer where they are as quickly as possible?
So it's interesting that you asked that because I just attended a conference in Miami and it was all CMO, head of marketing, head of communications, people from medium-sized businesses to the largest enterprise companies, and a lot of it depends on which industry people are in
Okay.
and where they are in their journey with AI and their own companies, and also personally, right? Because it's one of those moments where we know if we use biased or exclusionary language, the AI will mirror those patterns. And that just reinforces harmful stereotypes and leaves out certain groups. So, like you said, our words are the building blocks for AI's understanding. And and the words have the power to shape a more inclusive, fair digital world. And so it's in marketing, I think about every choice. It's every descriptor, every tagline that teaches the model something about the world. So if we want AI that understands our customers accurately and ethically, we have to be really intentional with our language from the start.
Agreed. That intentional aspect from the start is critical rather than trying to go back and correct something. Can you share just some examples for the audience of language biases in AI systems like Google's image recognition issues and some of those things that we just need to be aware they're out there and this is how we can get around those or reduce them?
Absolutely. So to your point, one example is Google's image recognition AI, which basically in June 2015, um, it it didn't accurately identify people of color. It mislabeled them as objects. And this happened because the training data wasn't diverse enough. But that was in 2015, right? And so similarly, when AI is trained on biased text data, it can perpetuate gender, race, and cultural biases in its output. So there are a couple of other examples. So, for example, in 2018, Amazon scrapped its AI-powered hiring tool after discovering that it was biased against women. And the tool was trained on resumes submitted to Amazon, which were mostly from male candidates in tech. And so as a result, the AI favored male candidates and penalized resumes with female associated terms. So what they did was they completely abandoned the tool, and because they saw that the bias was in the system disproportionately recommending men for technical roles. And so it just was clear that the tool reflected this historical gender imbalance in the hiring process. So here's one of the keys, I think, is that they were auditing their tools, and that's how they discovered it. And so I think that's another thing that we all need to be very aware of, because these tools are learning as fast as we're using them.
Exactly.
So we have to do regular audits to make sure that we're really checking to see. And this is where, people are going to lose jobs because of AI. It's even more critical that we do the auditing and we make sure that it is equitable and fair.
Yeah. Well, then it can't be done. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say another interesting example is that IBM created the Diversity in Faces DIF data set to address bias in facial recognition technology. And so historically, facial recognition systems performed really poorly on certain demographic groups, particularly with people of darker skin tones, women. And it just was due to a lack of diversity in training data sets, right? So to improve fairness, IBM included diverse representation in their data set, conducting extensive bias testing to ensure that the data set was balanced and that the algorithm performed fairly across groups. And this was made publicly available with full transparency about its composition, about the methodology, allowing for peer reviews and external feedback. So this really helped them improve fairness in facial recognition technology and set an example for creating more inclusive data sets.
Agreed, that setting that example. But the fact that you talked about what Amazon was doing was auditing, that's how they found out what IBM was doing to be much more inclusive, understanding that the models are learning as in real time as quickly as we're inputting information. So we have to let's control the human element there from a speed perspective, from a tonality and a language perspective to ensure that we're helping to reduce the bias that we know is there. So ultimately, I think what that means is that when using AI tools, I talk with CMOs every other week, and everyone's leaning heavily into generative AI for copy creation, creative inspiration, email copy for BDRs. But when using these AI tools, it's really obvious, Emily, that marketers have to really, really choose their words very carefully to ensure that the models and the outputs are inclusive and fair and free from bias. So what are some of the words that marketers should be using to help with this inclusivity?
Well, so I think there it's a layer up, right? It's companies have to build AI ethics frameworks to guide responsible AI development. And so with principles that focus on fairness, reliability, privacy,
Yeah.
inclusiveness, transparency, accountability. And so there are a lot of companies, Cisco has done this. And again, you know, it's the collaborative nature, I'll say, of a lot of companies coming together to build those frameworks together
Yeah.
because we collaborate with organizations like UNICEF and the World Economic Forum to use AI for solving global challenges in healthcare and education and disaster response. And so by partnering, we can all ensure that these AI solutions are accessible and relevant to underserved communities. And, our Cisco Networking Academy provides AI education to people from diverse backgrounds and empowering underserved communities with technology skills. And so this is all a foundation for understanding and addressing the complexities of bias in AI. And it just shows the importance of truly a holistic and cross disciplinary approach
Yeah.
to create fair and responsible systems.
I completely agree. I think that collaboration across organizations, across functions within organizations is critical. We should all be sharing as we're all working to create these AI models that are helping us do our jobs more
Right.
productively, more efficiently. We should be sharing best practices. What we've done that doesn't work. And to your point, that foundation, that horizontal foundation of ethics has got to be there before any execution starts. Do you see most organizations really starting at that foundational level, or are some folks just trying so hard to move too quickly?
I think it goes down to the company and, our legal department was on point the minute that first, OpenAI tool came out because they said, gosh, we've got to put some governance around this.
Yes.
And we have to create our own tools so we're not compromising any internal, IP or personal PII, personal
Right.
data and compromising our customers' privacy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I think really, everybody's moving as fast as they can. So I don't know the answer to that.
But you're right. Everybody is moving quickly, but you also bring up a great point because at the end of the day, Emily, it's all about the customer and they want speed, they want accuracy, they want relevance, but they also not at the expense of data privacy. And that's something that we're seeing pop
Right.
up more and more across the globe, whether it's GDPR or CCPA here in California or other states in the U.S. or other parts of the country of the world. Excuse me. That data privacy has to be maintained because back to your point about trust earlier. If data privacy is
Mhm.
breached, you lose that trust with the customer, you've probably lost them.
Absolutely. 100%. And so you asked me about words, inclusive language that avoids stereotypes. So one example, and this is a really simple one. So instead of using gendered terms like salesman, opt for
Mm,
salesperson or
yes.
sales representative. It's choosing that neutral language and avoiding labels that could unintentionally exclude or marginalize anyone.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to that intentional nature and thinking hard about, who you're talking to and the why behind it, and thinking about the diversity of perspectives that you're representing.
Yeah. I think and a lot of that we were taught as kids, not mailman, mail carrier, salesperson. So it's a lot of it's common sense, but I wonder if in some
Right.
cases we're moving so quickly, we're trying to outcompete that we're just not thinking back to some of our common sense basics when it comes to best practices for training AI models really fairly. Do you think that's part of, and some of that's cultural too across organizations?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think, it's not just cultural in organizations, it's cultural in where people come from, how
Yes.
they were brought up, how they communicate. Because, I could be speaking with someone across the world and they might have a completely different perspective or take offense to something that I say that it was completely unintentional, right? I mean, and also I think to your point is training the data is everything. And if the data lacks diversity, the model is not going to understand the full spectrum of the human experience
It
because
can't.
it's not human.
Right.
And it might struggle with slang, with cultural references, or the nuances of different communities. And so, again, that diverse representative data ensures that our AI models can understand and generate language that resonates with a wide range of people and not just one group.
And I think that is a message that you bring up, Emily, that's so critical these days. And that awareness for how we're communicating with these models, the language we're using, the tone, I think that awareness needs to be not at the baseline of the foundation, but woven throughout the discussions, throughout the work, so people really get reinforced. We have to free it from cultural bias. We have to recognize that there is cultural bias. That's how the world operates. But I think folks that are leaning into AI as quickly and furiously as they are now, that awareness needs to be just woven throughout all of their work, all of their training. Remember common sense, remember tonality, remember language, and every time you're interacting with it, because you have the opportunity to teach it. You also have the
Oh,
opportunity to teach it
absolutely.
fairly and inclusively. And I think there's a sense of responsibility there that I hope marketers and other folks that are leaning into AI have and carry through their practices.
It is a tremendous responsibility, but I feel like because, so many people are embracing the use of AI, the more empathetic language we use at training the data as marketers, we can really help build better
Yes.
models that reflect society as it really is. I mean, there's a chance for all of us to be part of this movement that ensures that it's not only effective, that AI is not only effective, but it's equitable.
Yeah.
And that just helps create that fairer digital landscape for all.
I think that's such a great, unique opportunity. The point you just raised, Emily, about the opportunity for marketers to shape the future of AI through language, through tonality, through empathy, through doing all of the things that we as humans can do that the systems can't. Tremendous opportunity there to really make it far more equitable, inclusive, and fair. And those are just essentials for all of us using AI going forward in any job, in any activity that we're doing, whether we're interacting with customers or not. It's just foundational.
Right, right. And I think going back to regularly auditing models for biases and not just relying on automated systems, human oversight is absolutely the key to ensure fairness. And I think that, as we collaborate with diverse teams to build these models, we'll all gather together insights that might be missed otherwise. And it's
Yeah.
not about being reactive, it's about being proactive.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's sometimes where people struggle because human nature is we want to move fast and we want to outcompete. And so there's that sense of urgency that always seems to be there. But to be able to step back from being reactive and become proactive, which we can do, I think is a huge message. What are some of the emerging trends in language-driven AI that we should be aware of that you're excited about that are going to give us the opportunity to make this more fair and inclusive?
I love this question. So, one of the major trends that I have noticed is the rise of conversational AI.
Yeah.
I have an 18 and a 19-year-old, and they have conversations. I mean, it's just fascinating. And then there are think about chatbots and virtual assistants that are becoming
Yeah.
increasingly sophisticated
Oh my
at
God. Yeah.
understanding a response and responding in a human manner.
Yeah.
And so that's like the natural language processing, NLP. It's also evolving to handle more complex tasks
Yeah.
like sentiment analysis and context understanding, making interactions with customers, with everybody, feel more intuitive and
Yeah.
personalized.
Yeah. I had a conversation with Sesame's chatbot called Miles like a month or two ago. And I kid you not, Emily, I really felt like I was talking to another person. And we were talking about AI and what it did for work and my dogs. I mean, it just went this really interesting route, but I felt guilty for clicking hang up because I felt like the conversation seemed so natural that I felt like I don't want to hang up on Miles, but I feel like I need to because this is kind of getting to the creepy side. But the conversational AI is fascinating these days, and it's only going to get better if we train it in the responsible way. Last question for you. What is the most
Yeah.
surprising thing that you've learned about language and AI that you think
Oh
everyone needs
gosh.
to know this?
That one of the
Too many
most
to count?
surprising things is yeah, well, I'll give you one. It's how much language shapes AI's behavior. So even
Yeah.
subtle biases in language, like gendered pronouns or assumptions in word choices, can deeply affect how a model learns and interacts. And I've tested so many like Claude and OpenAI and
Yeah.
all these different ones.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because it's just a reminder of how much responsibility, going back to responsibility, we
Yep.
have
Yep.
to ensure that AI reflects fairness and inclusivity. Because, I mean, honestly, it's so easy to just type in something quickly
Yes.
and it'll just learn from whatever it is we type in. So I think we have a really cool opportunity in front of us to make this good.
I agree. And I love that because it is just that it's opportunity. And if we're just a little bit more mindful, maybe a little bit more patient and bring in some of the human elements AI can't do, we have the responsibility and the opportunity to give AI what it needs to learn fairness, inclusivity, to reduce the bias so that stereotypes don't persist, so that no voices are excluded. Emily, it's been such a joy having you on CMOs Unscripted. Thank you for sharing why it's so important to use language and tonality and emotion and empathy as we're training AI models so that we can be proactive, and also why we should be auditing and companies should be auditing tools on a regular basis to ensure that we're dialing down the bias that's there and dialing up the relevance and the personalization. I so appreciate your insights. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Lisa. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely a pleasure. For Emily Foley, I'm Lisa Martin. You're watching CMOs Unscripted. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we appreciate you. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube because every 2 weeks, we come out with a new episode featuring a fantastic marketing topic with yet another fantastic chief marketing officer. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.